Um, Technology is not my friend right now as I'm waiting for my presentation to pull up on my computer. So this evening, we will be talking about using social media for evangelism and global outreach. As Ms. Baskerville said, my name is LaKesha Womack. I am a member of the Alabama-Florida Episcopal District, where Bishop Seth Olarte is my presiding prelate. I serve as the Young Adults in Christian Ministries Connectional Chairperson for the Christian Education Department, where Dr. Catherine Brown is our General Secretary. And professionally, I am a business and marketing consultant. I started my firm in around 2005 when I realized that small business owners, especially minority small business owners, don't have a person that they can go to find help with their operations or help with marketing, help with finances. A lot of times when we start doing the thing that we do, whether it's baking cakes or doing landscaping, we do it to the best of our ability. But when it comes to the back end stuff, the operations, the human resource management, we often fail in those areas, and so that prevents a lot of small businesses from being able to grow to scale. It prevents them from being able to go out and get loans. It prevents them from being able to open new locations. So I started my consulting business to kind of fill that void, to be able to help those business owners. Yay, I stalled just long enough for my presentation to come up. So with social media, now I got to figure out how to use the clicker. Okay, so I use as the basis for this presentation the Great Commission. Reading from Matthew, the 28th chapter, verses 16 through 20 from the ESV version, it says, "Now the 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain to which Jesus had directed them. And when they saw him, they worshipped him, but some doubted. And Jesus came and said to them, 'All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. And behold, I am with you always to the end of age.'" So some of you may be wondering, what does that have to do with social media? I believe that this is the one period in our history that we actually have the power to reach people of all nations. Social media is the tool that allows us to reach people all over the world. There has been no other point in our history where you can type a message, press a button, and within an instant, that message can be read by people from one end of the earth to the other end of the earth. So how are churches, how are religious groups using social media to spread the good news? A lot of us have Facebook pages. We might be doing it a little bit personally, but do we have a strategy? Do we have a strategy to use social media to win souls? So in order for us to move forward, we need to be on one accord about what we're talking about. So the first thing that we're going to discuss is, what is social media? Social media consists of websites and applications that enable users to create and share content or to participate in social networking. So it's basically all those apps on your phone, all those websites that you go to that give you the little share icon where you can share information. That's the basics of social media. But what is evangelism? Evangelism is the spreading of the Christian gospel by public preaching or personal witness, zealous advocacy of a cause. So a lot of us use our social media. We use our sharing ability to spread the good news. Some of us don't. But in this instance, we're going to be talking about how do we use our social networks for evangelism. And then we're going to look at global and outreach. How do we do this to reach the whole world? Not just the people in your circle, not just the people that you know, but how do you use social media to connect with our brothers and sisters who are in Africa, who are in India? We have people who are in England. How do we use social media to bring them into the AME Zion family, to make them feel connected to the things that we have going on? So we will start with, all right, so I got to do double duty. I'm doing my computer and the clicker. So, my screen's working. So using social media, how can you use social media? There are 4 different things that you can do with social media. You can either send text, which is written messages. You can use photographs. You can use video, and you can use audio. So some people say, well, I just want to write messages. Why do I have to share pictures? Why do I have to record stuff? And the reason that we do that is because we know that different people learn in different ways. So if the only way you're sharing information about your church is through written information, then you're going to be missing some people because some people don't like to read. That's just a fact. It can be the best message that you've crafted in your whole life, but there are some people who don't read and they're going to keep scrolling. So you might say, well, I'm just going to post pictures. What's wrong with pictures? Well, some people, they don't grasp information through pictures. Maybe hard to believe, but they don't. So you say, well, I'm just going to post videos of my sermons. Well, some people don't want to take the time to listen to a sermon. So we have to use all 4 techniques in different ways so that we can reach different people. If you only use one technique, then you're only going to reach one group of people. So now we get to the fun part. What are the types of social media? There are so many different forms of social media out there, and I'm just going to briefly go through each one simply because there are some of you that have seen these out there, but you have no idea what they do. You have no idea how to use them. So I'm just going to give a brief explanation before we move forward. So we're going to start with websites. So most of you know, and you've heard people say, oh, you got to get a website. And you're like, okay, why do I need a website? What's the point? You know, everybody knows where my church is. Well, most people who are looking for a church, how are they going to find your church? Are they going to go to the yellow pages these days? No. They're going to Google you. And if they Google your church and they don't find anything, they're not coming to your church. If they Google your church and your church does not have correct information, it's not going to give them a very fuzzy feeling about your church. I Googled a church, put up their website, said service starts at 11 o'clock. I'm like, perfect. I get to church, parking lot's full. I'm like, okay, everybody gets here early. Like, I like this church. I walk in, the preacher's already preaching. Church starts at 10 o'clock. If I'm a first-time visitor to your church and I come in an hour late, I feel embarrassed because I feel like I'm walking into the middle of something that I had no part of when your website told me to be here at 11 o'clock. So simply having a website is not enough. You need to have correct information on your website so that when visitors come, because some people, I'm a faithful Zionite, so I'm going to go to an AME Zion church almost every Sunday, no matter what city I'm in. But there are some people who are not faithful Zionites, and they're just giving your church a shot because you had a pretty website, and that one experience could turn them off from ever coming back again. So then we have Facebook. Facebook is very popular. Almost everybody knows what Facebook is. But Facebook is constantly evolving. Facebook is always changing their algorithm. So you may have 2,000 friends, but only 500 of those friends can see your message based on what type of content you're posting. A lot of people don't know that. They're like, why did I post a picture and only 100 people like my picture? Because of the algorithms that Facebook uses, only maybe 500 of those people saw your picture. So that's why I'm an advocate for, if you're going to be on social media and that's a strategy, you want to engage people through technology, to have a website. Because Facebook is not owned by you. It's not owned by me. They can change their algorithms every day, and there's nothing that either of us can do about it. But if you have your own website for your church, you control the information that's on there. You control what people see. You control what people know about your church. And then we go to Twitter. So a lot of people are familiar with Twitter, but they're like, I don't know how to do that tweeting thing. So Twitter is basically you have 140 characters to share a message. 140. As we know, our president uses every 140 of his characters, every chance he gets. So with that being said, you cannot say that Twitter is not an effective marketing strategy, because he's using it to engage his base and to keep them connected. So why aren't we using Twitter to engage our base and keep them connected with us? Is it because we don't want to take the time to find how to condense a message to 140 characters that's relatable to people? Even when, if your pastors are preaching, you can have your young people to tweet out the messages. If you have a young person in your church that a lot of them have 300-400 friends that are following them, and if you encourage them to tweet the message on Sunday morning, they press a button, and a couple of hundred of their friends see what you're preaching about. These may be people who have never gone to church before, who know nothing about God, but that could be one instance where they can develop a connection. They can say, what is that church about? What are they talking about? Where is she at? Where is he at this morning? So Twitter is a great way to engage your audience. Instagram. Instagram is for people who want to post pictures. My personal preference, if you're going to post pictures, don't post like 15 pictures in a row. You know, like people, they don't want to see all that. So if you're going to be on Instagram, you know, maybe post 1 or 2 pictures a day, but don't go overboard with it because then people are not going to want to follow you. But it's a great place for you to show pictures. So if you're having an event at your church and you have somebody taking pictures, I go to so many events and people have a photographer that's running around taking pictures, and I'm like, but what are you doing with the pictures? Whoever sees all these pictures that you're taking? Why not use those pictures to help people say, hey, that looks like a fun place to be. That looks like a fun event. I want to go to that event next time. But if you never show people, because people can be visual learners, if they never see what you're talking about, they never see what you're doing, then they don't know how great it is. They don't know how much fun you're having. So using Instagram to share pictures. Live stream. I know a lot of churches are using live stream on Sunday mornings to show your worship service. That's great. Make sure you or someone is going back and watching those live streams. Watch the live stream to see what your audience is seeing. I was in a meeting with a church in Dallas a couple of days ago talking about their branding. And one of the things that came up in the meeting was during their fellowship period, you know, we walk around and we're hugging and loving on people. The people in the audience feel disconnected because you're in the space and you're loving and hugging on each other, and I'm sitting at home in front of my computer screen like, oh, what about me? Who's going to love and hug on me? And we think, well, that should make you want to come to church next Sunday. No, that makes me want to find another church service to watch. So one of the things that they talked about doing was running their announcements during that time, having a video that plays announcements while everybody's loving and hugging on each other. So that way the person who's watching is still connected. So you see, a lot of times we want to use these strategies, but we don't think about how is the audience interpreting what they're seeing? What are they getting from this experience? And then we have email databases. Email databases are probably one of the most underutilized resources, especially in our churches, because we still want to send out letters. We want to make announcements in church. Some churches don't do announcements anymore. They do a Monday morning email blast with all of their announcements on it. So that way you save time during service because you're not having somebody stand up and read every card and every announcement that came through. And if there's something that you want people to do, if there's a call to action that you need them to take, if you want them to register for something, you want them to buy something, with an email, they can click on the button and make that happen. If I'm in service on Sunday and you're telling me I need to go register for something in the middle of worship, am I going to think about that after worship? Am I going to do it during worship? So we wonder why people don't sign up for stuff, why they don't register for stuff. You're telling them at the wrong time. You're telling me while I'm trying to have an encounter with the Holy Spirit that I need to register for the picnic next Saturday. Okay. So we have to be smart. We have to work with people in the way they naturally operate instead of trying to get them to operate outside of what's natural to them. Google Hangouts. Google Hangouts, if you have a Gmail account or if you use Google, then you have a Hangouts account. That's great for meetings. If you're having small meetings, you don't have to bring everybody to the church all the time. Say, hey, let's schedule a Google Hangout. We can see each other through the computer screen, even on your smartphone. Great way to have meetings. YouTube, some people, they take their videos, they share them through YouTube. The difference between Facebook Live, I know a lot of you see people, they go live on Facebook, and it's like, well, why would I use YouTube over Facebook Live? Well, YouTube allows you to archive it, so that means that it's saved there. If you have a video on your Facebook account and I want to go back and see the video, I either got to scroll through your whole timeline, or I got to find the videos tab somewhere on your Facebook page, click on that, and go through every other video of your grandchildren and your friends and y'all out having fun to find that one video. Whereas with YouTube, if you have the videos archived on there, then people can go just to your church videos and see those. LinkedIn. People are like, well, how do we use LinkedIn for the church? LinkedIn now allows you to have a companies page. So you can set up a company for your church, and if you have business owners in your church, you can encourage them, if they have a job opening, post it on our church LinkedIn page. Let's hire each other. Let's do business with each other. Create a way that they can see, what other business owners or what other professionals are members of your church. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we kept dollars circulating in our community instead of always spending them in other communities? But if I don't know what you do professionally and you don't know what I do professionally, how do we ever do business with each other? So LinkedIn is a great tool, and especially if you have younger people in your congregation, they're like, oh, I'm looking for a mentor, I'm looking for a job. Create a LinkedIn page so that they can start connecting with some of the professionals in your congregation. People that you know and trust will give them good advice about their careers. Let's see, we have Pinterest. Pinterest is just for, sharing boards. If you're looking for events, a lot of people are looking, I want to do something fun for the young people. Pinterest has lots of great ideas for parties, for different events, decorations that you can do at low cost. Jazz it up. It's in the fellowship hall, but you can still make it look jazzy. You can still make it creative. Pinterest gives you great ideas for that. Google Plus is very similar to, it's like a combination of Facebook and Twitter, allows you to post information and share it. And then SoundCloud. SoundCloud is an audio service. So if you don't have the capabilities to live stream your services, but you want to record it, you can record it and post it to SoundCloud, and then you can share it through your social media with people who might want to hear the sermon. So if you can't get a HD video camera and do all of that jazzy video stuff, use your phone, record the audio, post it on SoundCloud, and then you can share the message from that Sunday. And then finally, we have blogs. So blog sites are like a website, but if you're a writer, if you love to write, it's a great way for you to share articles, share information. If you have, say, a scrapbooking club and you want to share tips on scrapbooking, the great thing about blogs is people follow blogs. They go looking for information for blogs. And so that's a great way that you can start to build a community, people outside of your church that are connecting based on a special interest. I'm sorry. Periscope. So Periscope it's owned by Twitter, and it's a video service also. But the only drawback to using Periscope, so you can record videos on Periscope, but they disappear after 24 hours. So if you don't download the video and save it or archive it somewhere, then if I don't see it when you post it, then tomorrow I can't go back and watch it. So the next thing that I'm going to briefly discuss is the difference between mobile websites and mobile applications. I know so many churches that have had someone come to them and make a presentation. Your church needs an app, and we can help you develop this fancy app, and apps are very expensive, and they jump on board, and they don't really know what they're getting themselves into. Because the difference between a mobile website and a mobile app is an app is something that you have to go and download. So you have to go to either your iTunes store or the Google Play store, and you download it to get the information. And apps are expensive to maintain. They're expensive to host, and they're not easy to update. So normally that company is making that great pitch to you. There's also going to be a maintenance fee that you have to pay them in order for them to update it for you. A mobile website. Most website companies these days have optimized their websites for mobile. So that means back in the day, when you have websites and then you look at it on your phone and it's like half the website is cut off and it's like over here and you're like scrolling to get to the other side, or you're trying to make the screen go up so you can see the whole thing. Well, now companies are making sites where they're mobily optimized. So that means that if it looks one way on your computer, when you open it up on your phone or you open it up on your tablet, it's automatically going to resize so that it still looks nice. So you don't have to go out and buy a mobile app unless your church just has that kind of money. But you can get a website that will still function as that will still function on your mobile device. And also, apps don't show up in Google searches. So again, if I go and I'm Googling your church and you have this wonderful app over there, I'm not going to the iTunes store to Google for a church. So I still might not find your church. So unless you have a pretty decent budget, I don't typically recommend that smaller churches get mobile apps. But you definitely need to have a website. And I further encourage, like, presiding elders, build a website for your district. Every church does not need to have a website, but every church needs to be online. A presiding elder having a website for the whole district, you can put the district events on there, your calendar, aggregate the material. We don't have to have everybody having their own, but you can have a directory. You can even have a page for each of the churches on your district so that everybody gets their individual attention, but then it's all in one place. If we're going to be connected, then we need to start connecting. Social media. So how do you determine which social media sites are right for your church? Because I just went through that whole list, and you're like, all right, so what am I supposed to do? I always advise you, start with the website. Make sure that, all your information is correct, that you have a list of all your ministries, have some, pictures so that people get a feel for what your congregation looks like. If you don't have 10 members, don't put pictures with like 100 people worshiping. Because, just being real, like if I look up and I'm like, oh yeah, like that church looks hype, and I get to your church and there's nobody there, I'm going to feel deceived. That's just the reality. People feel like you're not who you say you are. And you don't want to be in the business of deceiving people through bad marketing practices. So show the people in your congregation. Sometimes you have to stage pictures. Y'all ever stage a picture where everybody's spread out? You're like, all right, everybody come sit real close together, and then we're going to take the picture. So I'm not lying, but, because everybody's right here, they just not all spread out like they normally are. Make sure that you put the good pictures on there. Don't have like one person over here and two people over there, and then you post that picture because I ain't coming in because ain't nobody at your church. So, be smart, be strategic, show your church in the best light. So once you have a website, then I advise you to think about who's going to help you with all of this. If you only have like one young person in your church to say, yeah, I'll help you, then you don't need all of those sites because that one person cannot manage all of those sites. Also think about what kind of material do you have. If you don't have a video ministry, you don't need a live stream. If nobody's going to be recording the sermons, you don't need a SoundCloud. If you just want to post some pictures and, you just want to post, tweet the messages, then probably Twitter and Instagram. Think about what you're capable of doing because nothing is worse than going to a site and there's nothing on there. So it's like, okay, so you got a Twitter, but you don't tweet. Because then I think that you're either lazy or you don't really understand technology. Because we have to realize, like, every time you see something, thoughts come through your mind. When you see the Walmart logo, whether you've had a good experience with Walmart, you've had a bad experience, when you see that logo, those thoughts come through your mind. That's what branding is. Whenever you see a church's sign, if you've had an experience with them, something comes to your mind. So everything that we do, we have to be cognizant of how that's going to play in the mind of the people who are engaging with us. So think about how much time you have and what do you have to share when you think about what social media sites are right for your church. So now we're going to transition to using social media for evangelism. So how do we use social media to spread our personal witness? I got this from Frank, who did a workshop earlier, well, Reverend Frank Jackson, who did a workshop earlier, and he was talking about the different types of evangelism. And I think this presentation will be available through the Lay Council if you guys want a copy of it. But there are essentially, I think he talked about 5 types of evangelism. So there's lifestyle evangelism, which is personal evangelism through like casual conversation. And that's what happens a lot on social media. You know, you're just having casual conversation and, you know, you're talking about your faith, you're talking about what happened at church, and that piques people's interest. You know, sometimes someone will post, you know, Dr. Crenshaw came and preached at a revival. You know, I post something about his message, and, you know, people are like, oh, you know, I like that. That was a good snippet. So then the next time he comes and does a revival and they see that he's coming, because they know something that he said, they're more likely to want to engage with him. Family evangelism. That's where one family member shares the gospel and another family member, you know, engages with it. And that's what a lot of us do probably right now. We're sharing stuff and our family members see it. So even if it's someone who doesn't go to church, we may think, well, that person doesn't go to church and, you know, they need to get up and go to church. Sometimes they're getting baited by what we're sharing on social media. So when you invite them to that family and friends, they can say, oh, yeah, you know, you always like those posts by that pastor that I'm talking about. You should come and hear him preach. So by us giving them those little snippets, then it makes them say, oh, yeah, I do like what I've heard, what I've seen you post about them, or I do like the videos that I've seen. I will give it a try. And then there's confrontational evangelism, which is, you know, traditional evangelism where you meet someone new and you're sharing the good news. And that happens sometimes. We have new people who join our network, join our Facebook page, and they start to engage with us and see what we're sharing. And then there's cell group evangelism. So how does that fit in with social media? Sometimes you can set up groups. So like if you have a young adult group in your church, instead of them just participating in the larger Facebook page, you might set up a small group for them where they can go and share information about what they're doing and connect with each other. And that helps them to filter out some of the noise from their larger Facebook audience. Because sometimes we get inundated with so many different messages that it kind of clouds our vision. It kind of clouds our thinking. But if I have a group of other young adults that I can go and share just my faith, I can share inspirational messages with them, then that helps me to filter out some of that other noise. You can do that. Oh, did I change that? You can do that with, you can have a singles ministry. You can have a widows ministry. A lot of people think social media is just for young people. There are a lot of older people who are on social media. Help them to set up places where they can connect with other widowers in the district. It doesn't even just have to be for your church. And then finally, there's power evangelism, which I'm not a big advocate of because that's a very aggressive form where you're like, you know, if you don't get right, you're going to hell. That doesn't win very many people over, especially on social media. Like, you're kind of creepy. Definitely, you know, those messages where it's like, you know, if you don't share this and you're not going to have, don't post those either. You know, let's, you know, make sure that the things that we're sharing are truly reflective of the gospel. Sometimes, like, those things, like, they sound good, but, you know, don't tell people that they're going to hell if they don't share your message, because that's not how it works. And that makes us look bad because we're just sharing things to try to get likes or to try to get people to share. Share the true gospel. So how does using social media for evangelism differ from your personal use? So if you have a church page, another just tip that I have, if you're a new pastor and you're going to a church, your first thing should not be setting up a social media account for your church. Go in, get to know the people, and get someone from the church to set up a social media account. And they can give you access to it, but because ministers serve in an itinerant ministry, you shouldn't want your pastor to be the only one posting on your social media account. Because if they leave next annual conference and you've gotten used to them being the only one that posts, what happens to your social media? You don't have a social media anymore unless the next pastor that comes wants to do the same thing. But if you have a member of your church who's in charge of the social media, then whether the pastor goes or the pastor stays, you still have a social media presence. So make sure that you think about that. Who's going to manage it? And don't put it all in the hands of the pastor. I'm a full advocate of giving the pastor access to the account, encourage them to go and share a word maybe, on Mondays or do like a Tuesday devotional. Give them access, but don't put it all in their hands. So for you personally, your evangelism, the things that you post on social media, if you're going to say that you're a Christian, everything else that you post from there is a part of your witness. So you can't say on Monday or on Sunday, I just came from church and I had a wonderful time, and then on Tuesday, you cursing somebody out. You can't do that. You got to choose. Choose which one you're going to serve. Either you're going to serve the folks you're cursing out or you're going to serve God. But everything that you post, every picture, everything that you post, people are judging God through that. Because you have stated that you are a witness, that he chose me, and I'm saved, and I'm a Christian. So everything that you say from there, they feel as though it's a representative of God. So now we want to talk about global. One thing that our young adults came up with to engage our global community during our midwinter meetings is instead of just having like our international delegations to send greetings, we started to have them do video greetings for them to be a part of our worship experiences at midwinter. We know that they can't do live a lot of times because of the time difference, but they're able, I think last year they did a prayer for us, and they did like our hymn of preparation for the worship service. So we can engage with some of our international delegations and ask them to send videos to share with us during our worship experiences. Because what that does is not only gives them an opportunity to be connected with us, but it gives your congregation an opportunity to understand the mission work that we do. Because if the only thing that your congregation sees is what's happening in their church or their district, and they wonder why they're paying these claims and why they have to send all this money away, and they don't ever see it, then it's hard to conceptualize. But if you're able to get some of those videos, and you can get one video and share it around the district. It could even be a song. Like I think Bishop Monroe was saying about, some of the songs that, are sung, how it's a different tone. It's a different vibe. Expose your congregation to that. That's why we are a connectional denomination. Let's expose each other to different experiences. So when you're posting messages, if you have a desire to build an international community on your page, then you have to understand a couple of things. One is globalization versus nationalization. So there are some issues that are very specific to us in the United States. And if you're trying to build a global ministry, they might not connect with those issues. So if you're saying, some of my friends joke about we have first world problems. Like, oh, my God, I don't have any ketchup. I can't eat my hot dog. That's a first world problem. Because there are people in third world, like, you don't have ketchup. Like, who cares about ketchup? You got a hot dog. So, if you're trying to engage an international audience, you have to be sensitive to some of the things that you consider emergency or dire situations, because it can make you look elitist. Because they think, oh, that's the biggest thing that you have to worry about. We're worried about running water, and you have, like, these elite issues. So, think about the types of messages that you're posting, and how does that play to an international delegation? And you can even think about how does that play to a less affluent person in the United States. If you're posting about, well, we're having a cookout, and you can't come to the cookout if you don't meet these criteria. Yeah, it may seem funny, and it may seem like, oh, we're just doing it as a joke. But if I'm somebody who's living on food stamps, and you're saying I can't come because, I can't use like a paper plate, or, just something like real trivial or trite, then that makes me feel like I'm not a part of this community. I'm not a part of these people. So be really careful about the types of messages that you don't come across as elitist, even in your attempt at being funny. And then also consider self-promotion versus Christ promotion. So when we're promoting events and we have these great speakers that are coming, are we promoting the speakers and the presenters, or are we inviting them to have an experience with Christ? When you look at the flyer, is it about like this wonderful, apostle from the Kojic church down the street that's coming because he's got 1,000 members, so the flyer is all about him? Or is it about the worship experience that you're inviting people to? If I see a church flyer and it doesn't have a scripture on it, I'm kind of like, I don't know if that's for me. I mean, it may be for other people, but I want to know that you're inviting me to something that is focused on Christ and that is not just entertainment. And then for global audiences, also consider native tongue versus universal language. So what does that mean? So there are some like phrases that we use, like that's just water under the bridge. We understand what that means, but if you're trying to engage a global audience, water under the bridge might not mean the same thing to them. So I always like proofread your messages. Like with someone who does not understand English, would they know what I'm talking about? Would they understand what I'm talking about? So then when we talk about reaching out, reaching further, think about as you're using social media, who are you trying to engage? If you have a congregation that's all like older people and you're trying to reach the younger people, you need to have a conversation with your congregation. Be like, hey, we're going to bring in some young people. You need to be ready for those young people. Don't be mean to the young people. Don't try to attract people that your church is not prepared for. If you say we want to have a multicultural congregation, but your people don't really like white people, don't invite them to your church without talking to them and say, hey, we're going to invite some white people. Be nice to the white people. I mean, that's real because, and we laugh at that, but there are people who come to our congregations because we put up this great social media image that we're this multicultural, multi-generational church, and it's just a bunch of angry old black people. What does that say? What does that say to them? What does that say? It says that you're misleading people with your marketing. You're trying to convince people to come in, and you're turning them off. And the danger in that is that we might not turn them off not only from our church, but from an encounter with God. And that's the last thing we ever want to do, is something that we have done to impair someone's relationship with God, because people, they don't see it as, well, it was this one church. They think, is this how God is? Especially if I've never been to church before, I don't go to church, and I go to this one church, and I have a bad experience, it can have an impact on my relationship with God. So we have to take it very seriously when we're inviting people in and the messages that we're sending, and then the experience that they have once they get there. Have we truly represented God in our strategy for social media, and then in what they experience when they get to us? So that's why the focus scripture was, go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. So as we use our social media, we should be teaching people the things that we have been taught, the godly things that we've been taught, because we've been taught some other stuff too, but teaching them the godly stuff that we've been taught. That's how we use our social media as a witness. So people say, I know this person, and they don't have no money, their car broke down, but they love going to that church. Maybe if I go to that church and my car is broke down, I'll love life too. Simple. It sounds simple, but that's how a lot of people think. I want some of what you have, because if you can still be happy and you can still go to this church and praise God, I want some of what y'all drinking, because I need it right now. People don't come to church. Well, most people don't go to church because they don't have anything else to do. They go because they're searching for something. When they go online and they're looking at your church, they're looking at it because they think that your church is going to give them that something that they're searching for. So we have to make sure that we're reaching out, that we're putting out messages that will make people want to come to us. But then once we get them to us, that we're giving them that experience that will make them want to come back. So just a few strategies. One, determine the type of content that you have to share for your church. Like I said, if you don't have good photos, you don't need to be on Instagram. You don't have audio, you don't need a SoundCloud. Create a team to manage your website and your social media accounts. That team could be a team of one, it could be a team of two, but have some people who are in charge of it so that you don't have a Facebook page that hasn't been updated since 2016. Because that tells people, like, you're not current. So if you're lazy on that, then what else are you going to be lazy about? Update your accounts regularly. Consider using a scheduling program like Hootsuite. So Hootsuite is it's a program that you can use to schedule messages. So if you're trying to build an international delegation, you have to realize that there are some countries that are sleeping when we're awake. So if you're only posting information when you're awake, then they don't ever see those messages. So if you use a scheduling program, then at 2 o'clock in the morning when you're asleep, it's still posting scriptures. It may be posting another link to the recording of the sermon, and it gives them a chance to be exposed to your message. Manage comments. You know, if people are going on your page and, you know, I don't remember what organization it was. It was the Alabama Democratic Committee, I think. And no one was managing their social media. And there were some people going on there saying some pretty awful things about them. So to me, if I go and I look at your page and people are saying awful things about you and you're not sending anything back, you're not deleting it. And yes, it's okay to delete comments. It's your page. Somebody says something you don't like, delete it. If you're not managing that, then that tells me you don't care about your image. You don't care about what people are saying about you. And then finally, use the power of hashtags. So as you'll see, you might not be able to see it, but up in the top corner it says like Lake Convention 2017. If you use that hashtag, or if you have a hashtag for your church, then when you go on Facebook, you'll see the little hashtag, and it's usually lit up, and you're like, oh, that's so cute. If you click on that hashtag, everything that someone has said using that same hashtag will come up in a stream. So that's why a lot of conferences will encourage their attendees to tweet using the hashtag, because they can go back and they click on that hashtag, and everything that people have said about their conference comes up. So what do? Those are the people that they follow, because they know that those are the people who were there or they were watching it online. Those are the people that they share information about and that they get information from, because those are people who are engaging with you. So if you want to figure out, who are my members on Sunday morning, tell them, tweet something from the service and use this hashtag. And then go back and check the hashtag. See who are your members that are tweeting. Those are great people to recruit for your social media team because they're already doing it, right? So now we'll open it up for questions. I think we have like maybe 5 minutes for questions. And this quote by John Wesley, I'm sure all of us have read it at one point. Do all the good you can by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, as long as you ever can. Sounds like social media to me. All the places, all the people, all the ways, social media. So do we have any questions before we close?
My question relates to tweeting. So if you download the app to tweet, how do you create a list of people who will receive your tweet?
So with Facebook, when you become friends with someone, so if you and I, we're Facebook friends. So when I post something, you see what I post. When you post something, I see what you post. Twitter is different. Someone has to follow you in order for you to see what they post. So what you'll have to do is find people that you want to follow, and then you kind of hope that they follow you back. So that's why it's good for you to have like hashtags, because then you can see people who have the same interests that you have. Like if I go to a conference that's on leadership, and they have a leadership hashtag. I follow that hashtag to see other people who are interested in the same thing that I'm interested in. If you're interested in cooking, then you might type cooking, and you can, in the search bar, and you can see who's tweeting about cooking, who's tweeting recipes, and then those are people that you follow. And usually they'll look at your profile and they'll see, are you posting something about that same topic that I'm interested in? If they go to your account and you're not posting anything, they're probably not going to follow you back. But if you're posting good information, if you're posting interesting links, then they'll say, oh, this looks like a cool person, I'll follow you back. And then that's how they get to see the information that you're posting. So if you're a church and you have a Twitter account, you want to encourage your members, follow our account so that you can see what we're posting, we can see what you're posting, and we can connect with each other.
Yeah, need to know the best way to handle when somebody, they call it hacking, some people call it hacking, where they take your Facebook account and well, number one, how does that actually happen? And what do you do when somebody else steals your account and misrepresents you?
Okay. Well, I don't know exactly how it happens, but I know a friend who is a police officer warned me once about, those quizzes that we take, and it's like, oh, yeah, this is your favorite word, and, this is a word that you, well, those quizzes are not developed by Facebook. They're developed by third parties. And so sometimes when you click because you think it's fun and everybody else is doing it, then it allows the people, and then you click, log in through Facebook, it gives them access to your Facebook account. So that's one way that they can get your information. If you don't change your password, because people can go into like IP addresses, and if you use like the same password or even the same password algorithm for different sites, then they can go in and like guess your account. So that's why it's good to have real friends, because I know some of you that have been hacked before, and I'll see people post, I just got another friend request from you. So if you have real friends, they'll be like, yo, something's up. You got fake friends, they be like, somebody in their account. So you need to have people that'll tell you that your account's been hacked, you report it to Facebook, and then change your password. But beware of those quizzes. You have to come to the mic.
Thank you. Two things. First of all, what I do for passwords, I love using Bible verses, and I can switch it up at any time, and I can add the translation behind it. So one day I might feel like NIV, one day NLT, one day Message, and I just change up which verses I want. So it keeps it from being consistent.
Right.
Okay? So it's just a helpful thing for one. Question that I have, going back to the power of hashtag, because I'm still trying to get my arms around that. So if I do a hashtag on the website, does that somehow flow through to the Facebook and to the, can you give some insight to that?
Okay, so if you have a hashtag on your website, unless you have an aggregator plugin, which you probably won't have, then all that does is like train people to see that hashtag. So, like some people will do, like let's say if a business does, on their website, like hashtag BK101, like that's Burger King 101 or something. Then when you see that hashtag on Facebook, your mind automatically goes, I've seen that somewhere, Burger King. So it's amazing. Like there's so many associations that we make with stuff that we don't even realize. And so that's like subliminal marketing. So if you have a hashtag for your church, like let's say it's SPAMEZ, then when people see that and they know that that's where they saw it on your website, then it's going to bring back a memory. And they'll be like, oh, I've seen that somewhere before. And I'm much more likely to investigate it versus if I've never seen it anywhere before and it comes up, then it's like, oh, whatever. So having a hashtag and being consistent with it. Like some people use hashtags where, they're just being funny. They'll be like, hashtag, I wish I had never met you before. Well, that's not an aggregator hashtag because nobody's really going to click on that and see how many other people have said something about that. But if you're serious about hashtags and you want to find something short that represents your church or represents your event that people can remember and use. Does that help?
Okay, I have a very bad personal problem with my media thing here. I don't know what I'm doing.
Okay. That is a bad problem.
I have 3 Facebook accounts, and I need to get rid of them because I don't know which one I'm supposed to be using, and it's confusing. So, and my granddaughter just had a set of twins, so my sister has to tell me what's going on with my twins. So I want to get rid of all of that. I want one Facebook account so I can see my twins.
Right. Yeah, and I definitely recommend that because I think people who have like multiple Facebook pages are kind of creepy. Like if somebody's birthday comes up and I have like 2 birthday, it's like either you up to something because you got 2 pages, like that's just too much for me. So yeah, so just go in and like delete 2 of them. So you'll go in, if you're doing it on your phone, then you should be able to click on your picture, which is either the left or the right-hand side, and then it'll bring up a menu, and then toward the end of the menu will be settings, and then under your settings, you should be able to delete 2 of them. Yeah. Okay, so you need to find somebody to help you. Yeah. That's my best. Yeah, find somebody to help you. That's the best answer. So I think that's all that we have. If you want to get in touch with me, my company is Womack Consulting Group. You can go to my website, womackcg.com. You can find me on Facebook. That's my Facebook business page. You can find me on Twitter, LinkedIn. I've been doing social media for at least like 10 years, and I actually started building my brand because I went online and I Googled myself. If you've never Googled yourself, you've got to do that. And there was this girl who lives in North Carolina. Her name was LaKesha Womack, spelled the exact same way as my name, and everything online was about her. And I'm like, I'm pretty cool. Like, where's my stuff? So that's when, I started working on building my brand. I've had an online radio show for the past, 8 years. I've written 7 books. I was blogging. I was a guest blogger on mint.com, the personal finance personal finance site. So using social media is really cool. It's allowed me to build a network of over 10,000 people all over the world. It's allowed me to have clients in other countries. I just finished working with a couple in Australia doing a digital magazine for them. So social media, if you're a business owner, it can be amazing. If you're in ministry and you truly have a message to spread the gospel to people all over the world, it can be amazing. But you need to have a strategy, and you need to just be smart about what you're doing. Think about it. Don't just post random stuff, but really be strategic. So thank you to the Lay Council for having me. Thank you to our bishops for sitting in, and thank you to all of you.
Once again. Thank you. Well, I was going to suggest that you stay standing for a few minutes because we've been sitting for almost 2 hours, and maybe we just need a little stretch break. Don't anybody go anywhere now. Just stand and stretch or whatever.